Yeah.
really, really big task for them.
I'm trying to think of how this is actually shaping up to be losers bracket semis, loser bracket finals, and then we have the grand finals. This is going to get pretty interesting. Does it end up being Complain versus Flipside again? Complain is really strong.
Well, here's some stuff we know right now. We got our top four. And top four, of course, means these are teams guaranteed to qualify, or they've guaranteed to place in the next Rocket Royale. Flipside Tactics, Complain, Swarm Gaming, and ... That means IBP Cosmic was taken out 3-0 by Swarm in the lower bracket.
Yeah, so we're currently on our way to getting into Swarm versus ... I'm still I'm processing everything. I'm processing Swarm versus ... That's going to be a pretty crazy match, but that's going to
a bit too. What is this? Where did this team come from too?
They're here. They're in the semis, so they win. They go on to play Complain, who granted was very good, but oh man, this is getting pretty intense.
We could very well get a Complain Flipside rematch in the grand final, depending on how the rest of this tournament goes. Or we could see good old Standard, which is Complain and Flipside, or ... who just 3-0'd Peace Hater, could carve their way all the way to this grand final. I mean, this is a very interesting lineup, but also, on the other hand, it's all EU. So we can just say that at least. This is all EU. Everything is just going to be that way. NA having a difficult time this week in Rocket Royale. But I'm very excited. Any combination of these four teams has me excited. Because I think with ... they've been this team that also, kind of like Complain, started to kind of come out of nowhere. They played really well in ESL. They started to look better and better. And now they just kind of carved their way through this tournament. You know, they had a difficult time against Cosmic. Or not against Cosmic, excuse me, against Flipside. They beat Cosmic. They had a difficult time against Flipside, like most teams do. But since then, they haven't dropped a game.
Yeah, it's a lot of... It goes back to EU hype forever, but I'm really excited to see Swarm. We haven't... I don't believe we've casted Swarm yet today. I'm curious to see what Swarm looks like. I'm curious to see how they play against ... I'm assuming Swarm is going to end up winning this when it's all said and done, but I would imagine that we're going to end up seeing a relatively close series. I would hope.
Yeah, I can't rule out ... just because of anything. I mean, the one big change that a lot of people are probably going to see here with Swarm is Gambit. Obviously, Gambit, an NA player, formerly from Kings of Urban, joined up with Swarm immediately following last week's Rocket Royale, taking Stocky's place. Stocky, now part of Noble Esports.
So the Swarm and ... game just started. I apologize. I kind of let them know to let it roll a little earlier than we thought. But no, so it's... Okay, ... almost had to go right out of the gate, but they do a Maestro right out of the gate. Here we go. ... Can we just say their name is just not saying anything, maybe? I don't know. But Maestro from the top.
I mean,
on the goal.
We know that technically written out, it is the words ... That is how they write their name out. We've had this discussion a bit, kind of, as part of the power ranking committee and just as part of, in general. Like, how do you want to kind of shorten it down? Is it just .3 or dot to the third degree, or is it
dot
like
cubes.
Ellipses? Which is what ... is. It's an ellipses. Is that you call them that? Is that their short name? I don't know. But or 3 . Yeah, some people call them 3 . You can call them whatever you want, really. There's a lot of fun variety in that name. Either way, what you're gonna have to start calling them is a dominant European team.
Yeah, competitors for sure.
Their performance here and their performance lately has just
just beating Gambit. Let's look at this from Gambit's perspective. I'm curious.
Yeah, did Gambit move at all on that? He seemed to just kind of stop for a bit. I was watching him and he just didn't really react.
He just got real sad for a second. That was he saw the shot coming and went, "Oh man, that's gonna get past me. There's no way you're gonna get to that boost or not. You're not getting to that thing." So
I think he got caught up going backwards too. He was in reverse and that kind of turned him around.
Yep, open goal can Pasha get back there?
Well,
But I mean, let's talk briefly about Swarm, right? Swarm being probably the second most most commonly heard team out of EU, I would think. Short of Team Rocket, but as far as competition's concerned, it's Flipside and Swarm. The names out here, Pashy, Gambit, DeVore, like you hear them all the time. They're really good players. They just haven't been able to push it all the way through. And Bicycle Thief,
wide open again. Somebody stole my bike, and he also stole that goal because look at that, nobody there. Easy shot on net, wide open, and this lead is now getting ridiculous. 3-0 here. But yeah, you're right. Swarm is definitely the #2 European team. When you know they placed second last week in Rocket Royale. They actually took a series off of Flipside, as I mentioned earlier, to force a second best-of-5 series in the grand final. But yeah, they're definitely the #2 team, though we haven't seen them play a lot with Gambit on the squad. So the big ask, or the big question is going to be, is this enough? And we know they were also in the finals, I should say, of Friday's Gfinity tournament against Flipside. And they lost that as well. So they did lose to Flipside at Gfinity with Gambit on the team, which means Gambit was not the end-all be-all of the let's beat Flipside difficult issue that they have right now. Stocky wasn't it either. They actually, Stocky was a replacement for Sikizem back in the day. So I don't know I think the real formula here is just kind of figuring out how to get past Flipside, and that's something that a lot of teams have a very difficult time with.
Gambit is a great addition to Swarm, though, too. That is the one, like that, short of the only other one, Kyle Mask getting added as an official sub for Cosmic is like the one, right, that everyone thinks of. But Gambit getting on to Swarm in an official capacity is huge. That makes them, I think, more competitors than I think a lot of people give them credit for.
It gives them, I think, what they need to compete with Flipside on paper. Because if you look at Flipside, what are they built out of? 3 forwards, right? 3 strikers, 3 goal scorers. And that's what Gambit fills the role for. Like, Stocky was a great goal scorer, but I almost think he was a better kind of
Gambit with player. The goal. Speaking of Mr. Gambit himself, it's just a lot of being aware of everything. That's what that is. It's just knowing where the ball is, the velocity it's coming in at everything. That's really good play on Gambit's part. We jump over to Ash. I actually don't know very much about I'm familiar with Maestro to an extent. There's Gambit again. Just not letting me talk about anything. Let's go Gambit. Score another goal.
Like, yeah, you stopped talking about Swarm for a second there. Let me help you out by giving you another goal. Yeah, so it feels a little bit like Swarm's starting to click it on. But yeah, as far as goes, individually, I don't really know them very well. But as a team, I'm being forced to know a lot about them because they keep showing up in these results. They keep being that team that gets a big win here and there. When I hear that all of a sudden, oh, this team just got beat, this team just got eliminated, who did it? Oh, it was ... Who?
Yeah, right.
And it's just like, okay. So they're becoming one of those teams that's in that conversation.
They're a good team. I mean, they're beating Swarm in game 1 here. Granted, Swarm probably doesn't have very much experience knowing how they play. They're down 3-2, so it's not like they're getting routed or anything, and they just tied it. Pashy making me a liar.
That momentum meter has tilted in the other direction. Gambit started the ball rolling, and it's starting to look a little bit more like Swarm we're used to, which is really playing to win, playing early, getting that nice bit of physical play there by Gambit, I must say.
Yeah. And it looks like, and that's happening a little bit more. I'm not necessarily, there's not really a meta by any terms, because there's no like, oh yeah, it's the Octane meta, or blah, blah, blah. And there's the Boar finally showing up in the match with a goal. There's not really a meta, and this actually was a really good goal by DeBoer. Let's give him credit. Going right over the top of Bicycle Thief, beating out Maestro as well. Well, there's not really a meta for physical play, or we have all aerial guys, or there's just a lot of ground play. But I'm noticing more and more as that skill level is getting increased, that skill ceiling that's showing up in tournament play is getting up there where everyone's dogfighting, is all playing in the air together with each other. It's a lot more, let's check him before he gets into a position to actually go up anyway. That Gibbs physical play style that he shows every now and then. I'm interested to see where that actually goes forward. Of like, hey, do we just keep somebody on someone like a Gambit or someone like a Cookseer to just keep him out of position and make his aerials that much harder to hit?
Yeah, it's very risky. And there's a good setup. Actually, that pinch almost was picked up nicely.
And Swarm Gaming is going to have come from behind here. At one point, we were at, I believe it was 3-2, all the way up to 3. Was it 3-1?
I think it was down 3-0 for a little bit there, I thought. And then they came back and just scored 4 unanswered goals here.
Coming from
to
behind.
Take the win. But, looking at this screen, there's something I actually just want to point out. And this is the big reason that I thought this edition of Gambit was so interesting. Look at this ping that Gambit has. Because he's playing EU from NA, he's got to deal with a slightly altered reaction time. But apparently, Gambit plays so much more he plays constantly on EU servers.
Right.
So that he's starting to get so used to, that ping and that reaction timing and how he has to time things out that I guess going to a dominant EU team was kind of a natural fit.
There's
but
you have everyone in Australia too. That's the other, there are people who play in Australia who are probably going to end up becoming, I think, more and more prevalent as time goes on, as the liability of a higher ping may get more and more kind of negated. Gambit's playing really well, and he's playing really well at 130 ping, but you also have, and now I'm trying to, Stoney, who plays in Australia, who has 230 ping to everywhere. I'd love to see him play competitively, and 230 ping is maybe a little bit much, but still.
Yeah, it gets a little hard at some points, so DeBoer kind of whiffing on that aerial could be a big opening for ... but not quite there. So, I don't think the ping is quite the big difference, but it's enough that you got to wonder sometimes, especially from a player who has more experience in NA. Do they have that reaction time? But yeah, it sounds like Gambit, who does try and play a lot on EU anyway, does have that reaction time necessary to still be an effective component of an EU team.
And you can think about it from the other side, to not say flip side during this match. You can think about it from the other side. When they're playing in a tournament where they have to switch between NA and EU servers, you at least have a guy on your team who's going to have pretty solid ping when you go to NA. Well,
that's true.
It's not a bad thing to think about.
No, yeah, it's absolutely true. It does give you that little bit of an advantage just to, kind of feel a little bit better about going into those matches. So you still have somebody who can react to the ball quickly. And, you got to decide you probably want to keep that player maybe back on defense to be a little more reactionary. But anyway, to get back onto this, I mean, we're 2 minutes down, and I was
nice shot by DeBoer.
But just as I'm about to say, and still nothing on the board, here comes DeBoer playing this nicely off the wall. A little bit of an aerial touch here to get that redirect that he needed. So beautiful shot there by Swarm, by DeBoer, to finally get them on the board and keeping this going. So, not quite the dominant showing they had in the first game. Yet to be on the board so far. 2 minutes of nothing, not counting what we saw in the last game.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, coming down from 3-0 to nothing. Though here, could
and Ash got to catch them all. He is scoring a goal.
So you're thinking Pokemon, I'm thinking Evil Dead.
Okay.
But either way, either Ash is just as effective, because that was a great tying goal there. Necessary to start the momentum train going for ...
Straight out of Pallet Town.
So I'm eager to see how they follow up on that. Same for Swarm. How do they respond to that goal? Can they get back in this game? Maybe look a little more like their usual dominant selves? But
playing it right in front of their own net. Gambit trying to push it away. Manages to. Gets it past 2 players on ...
Yeah, Maestro had a nice little opening there, but he couldn't quite get that second bit of contact that he needed to finish.
There's Pashy pushing it through. Ash is there to try to defuse it. Pashy misses the jump back in, though. So it looks like it's a lot of trying to play what your opponents are trying to do to get their goals. It looks like Swarm has actually fallen back into that as far as just trying to defuse what's happening from ... Hey, we're going to push this in. They're going to try to hit it out from away from us. We're going to try to push it back through into their faces again. There's Bicycle Thief knocking it back into the zone. DeBoer and Pesci both there. Bullet shot.
Wide
Bot
open.
shot. Cross map.
Oh, DeBoer from distance.
That was DeBoer and Pesci bot-shotting that, basically.
Oh, yeah, look at that pinch shot. Gets pinched all the way downfield. Had a ton of heat behind it, 96 kilometers per hour. So a lot of power behind that shot from distance. You don't usually get that kind of power, but that's one of the few ways you can really get a distance shot like that to work, is to put a lot of heat behind it. So, still a very tight score here, but we're coming down to the end of the game. And needs to get something together. I'm trying to, like, I have not shoutcast ... before, I don't think.
I'm trying to figure out who does what, and it looks like a lot of Ash and Bicycle Thief rotating into the back. I think Maestro is kind of their Cooks here, in the fact that he plays really fast and loose kind of all the time.
Exactly, that's the problem I'm having. I'm trying to figure out, like, what's their style, what's their approach, and I'm seeing hints of this and hints of that, but I don't know, and that may be their style. Their style is they don't have one. And that might be an effective approach to it, because now your opponents don't know, okay, are they going to play 2-1? Are they going to play, 1 forward, 2 back, or a 1-1-1 style? Or, what are they going to do?
Rules are, there are no rules, shout this. Let's go.
They're going to throw cars at the ball. That's about it right now.
Oh, that's sitting right in front of the net. Could actually seal that, but it looks like they're going to clear it back out. Now they just have to play a little bit safer. Pesci's going to get there, going to defuse that one a little bit.
Okay. Don't know exactly what Maestro was doing there. Maybe he saw that he couldn't really get an effective shot on the ball.
There's the security. Coming from DeBoer flows in you. Let the DeBoer get into you and flow through your veins. DeBoer with the octane. They tend to. It seems like when Swarm clicks, they click. They just push it. They just, hey, we're here, we're going to score, and it looks like they're going to do it again if Pesci can get to it. They are just, or DeBoer again, sorry. Once they start clicking, once they figure out what it is that the opponents are doing, they're able to push it through and just clean up. 13 seconds left, 1-4. That's the end of this one for the most part.
Yeah. I've always looked at Swarm as being the kind of team that wins the game during the game. And what I mean by that is, like, I talk about Flipside as being kings of clutch. And they really are. But Swarm doesn't really play clutch style. If they're going to win the game, they're going to play the game to win it. And they've probably already played so well that they've won it by the 2-minute mark, by the 3-minute mark, They've already set that pace. They generally don't come back in, like, the last minute to win a game. That's usually not what they do. So, with that, it's a lot easier to kind of figure out, is Swarm going to win this game? Because you'll see it. Like, you'll see them playing how they need to, scoring what they need to actually win the game. But that's what it feels like.
They play this, like, slow downhill kind of roller coaster style where in the early parts of the game they're kind of just taking their pace, and then as the game progresses they're like, nope, we're just going to win now, just score everything all the time. Like, that's just their style, and that it makes a lot of sense. I mean, that's the same way that that Flipside plays to an extent as well. They play that cautiously optimistic early, and then as it gets later into the game they just push really hard to just start cranking out goals.
Yeah, and Flipside just loves to kind of come in final minute and be like, okay, we're just going to start putting on a bunch of goals now. That's something they do love to do.
They tend to try to pour it on. And it's one of the where, are they sure that they're going to win? Maybe not. But as the 2-minute mark starts to come up, they start really cranking it and getting hyper aggressive. Sure, they give up a goal or two there, but if they start pushing for goals really hard, they'll end up sinking more and they're going to end up missing.
Yeah, exactly. I've always looked at that as that's the approach that Flipside generally takes too. Is like, okay, we're going to be so aggressive that we're going to score 5. We're going to give up, 2 goals, but that's after we've already scored 5. So it doesn't really matter. But right now, kind of getting back on track, Swarm looking to be a very difficult team to contend with at this point, and ... kind of all over the place a little bit here. I'm not seeing. I mean, they got to figure out something here, because Swarm is just going to pick them apart if they can't keep it together and formulate some kind of attack. I think that's what they really need to do here, is have some kind of consistent attack.
Right, yeah, and it looks like, I don't have the bracket in front of me, but it looks like over the course of the day, they've played Peace Haters, they played Cosmic, they've played Flipside. So, I mean, it's a matter, it looks like they knocked out Flipside, or they knocked out Cosmic, lost to Flipside initially, and beat Peace Haters. So they did have a bit of a test, right, to knock out Cosmic. If I'm not right, then someone will correct me in the admin chat, please. But it seems like they may not have been tested enough. In a Cosmic who plays that NA style, being an EU team, hey, maybe EU is just in general, the style that they're playing with is going to win overall over an NA team. And even being, like, with Cosmic being the team they possibly beat. But yeah, I'm really not sure where ... came from, but they are kind of making their voices heard. They're in the power rankings. They're going to continue being in the power rankings, getting this deep into the tournament. But maybe this just isn't their time. They need a little bit more practice, because it looks like they might score and go ahead in this match, but just dribbling it.
Yeah, couldn't quite get that in there for Swarm, but yeah, I mean, ... like I said, they secured their spot in the next Rocket Royale. That's guaranteed.
Right.
You know, they owned that by placing in the top 4 here, and that's big. I think that's really huge to be in that top 4 at the end of a Rocket League, or at the end of Rocket Royale, because there are so many teams that you have to go through to do that, and they've gone through some big teams. Yeah, you know, Cosmic might not be playing with Kronovi.
There's DeBoer again. DeBoer being the one that's just like, hey, we haven't scored for a while. Let's just put one in.
Yeah, we're halfway through the game now, and they finally get their first goal to go by. So I will give ... a ton of credit for their defense. You know, their defensive skill is really outstanding in this series so far, but the problem is they're spending so much time on defense that they can't turn it around. You know, they can't flip around and get onto offense and actually try to get equalizers.
Right.
So that's the only reason I think this score is so tight, is that they're doing well to prevent a lot of these goals, but the pressure is on so much that something's going in. So ... kind of needs to pick their moment. Speaking of which, oh,
knocking it in. Maestro knowing exactly where he has to get to push it in. Again, that low goal. Now, I'm not saying it's not a skill goal, but playing it very low, getting it just underneath everybody.
Very smart play. That's the kind of goal that you need to send low, because it just came up high. Everybody committed to it. If he had set it up high, it probably would have hit somebody. So he puts it down as low as you can get it. Very nicely done to tie this game up. Keep ... in it. And maybe even try to get a game off of Swarm here, because they are on the verge
of being eliminated.
Yeah, this is it.
This is determining who goes on to play Complain in the Losers Bracket Finals. So we very easily could see Swarm versus Complain, which would be a good match. But I'd be interested to see if ... can actually come back and at least make it a fighting effort. If they don't come back and actually win, see if they can actually take a game off.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, this could be, you know, right now it's where it's got to come down to. They've got to really get another goal here very soon, try to get that go-ahead, and then own that. Because their defense is so good that if they can get one more goal here, then I think they can own it. Look at that, speaking of which,
what a save by Gambit.
Wow. That was a beautiful play, up pitch, great dribbling. But Gambit just comes in and is the spoiler and denies that goal from happening. So we're still tied, 1 goal apiece here, less than a minute to play. This is going to be exciting stuff, because I want to see who breaks this.
Like, I'm not talking because I'm like, hey, what's happened? So Patchy's shooting it in. Bicycle Thief just barely missed it. Let's take a look at it from his angle. Looks like Patchy just right place, right time, actually knocking that ball back in off of the Ash block off the zone. But Patchy, Bicycle Thief not tilting back, not boosting up, could have possibly had a block. But that looks like that could seal it, assuming ... can't come back and score a goal in 30 seconds, plus whatever 0 time we have. But there's a shot into the zone.
Shot. They got to get it out of harm's way, though.
Ash and Bicycle Thief keeping it in the zone. Gambit's there. Patchy's there to try to keep it in the corner at least, try to drain some time.
Bicycle Thief trying to play it forward here. Here comes Maestro. Nice little setup. Ash going to come in, try to get the finish, but DeBoer turns it away. Says, no, sir. Final 10 seconds. They got to hurry. Time is the worst enemy here for ... Their tournament lives are just about over. Rule 1 now.
Oh, Pashy tried to knock it. Well, Pashy actually tried to knock it down.
And it's still going. We're still going here. I thought we were just about done.
There it goes. So that's going to be game. That's going to be series. So we actually have Swarm Gaming coming up against Complain very shortly. We'll see. We'll see what exactly is happening with what's happening with Swarm, if they're going to take a little bit of a breather, jump over to that upcoming match screen. It's not Complain versus ... It's Complain versus Swarm. As soon as that gets fixed, we will. There we go. There we go. Now we're fixed. We're gonna jump back in just a few moments as soon as we figure out what is happening with Swarm and Complain.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so great showing by ... in that series. I mean, it was a 3-1 result, but if you look really at the actual games themselves, you could see how much closer it actually was. So I'm going to be honest, I don't know if Swarm's going to be able to really bring it against Complain. They weren't really playing the way I expected them to. So I could be wrong. We could come into this next game and it will just be a, smash. They'll just rout Complain, no problem. Or it'll be really competitive and they'll have like a good 5-game win. But I don't know. I'm interested to see it though, because we're going to get a hell of a grand final one way or the other.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are going to give Swarm just a few moments to get themselves kind of put back together. I'm going to go really quickly. We're going to kick it back, let the soundtrack play. It'll be about, like I said, about 120 seconds. So about 2 minutes, 3 minutes. We will be right back. See y'all soon.